I'm cheating. This is my second video of the day. There's actually just something I wanted to talk to you about, and it's an interesting topic for writers. Firstly, I'm going to start off by saying that sometimes when I get a little excited about things, I swear a lot. This is going to be one of those videos. I want to talk to you about characters. And there's a reason for this. First of all, we'll start by saying that there was this questionnaire on Tumblr that had 50 questions to ask writers, and I answered them. But one of the questions was, what do you do when your character doesn't follow the plot outline? And the question just made me laugh, and there's a reason for this. I have often said, and a lot of writers will say it, but I say it a lot. I have often said that there are some characters that just do what they want to. They do it all the time. And I call it the helpless author. But there are times when your characters will literally just do whatever they want to. Whatever they want to. And there are times I can't rein my characters in. They'll just do whatever they want. And the reason I'm talking about this is there's a special case that I've talked about time and time again because it pushed me so far out of my comfort zone that I'm still amazed. And this character, his name is Shisui. And those of you who are watching this that I've already mentioned this to know exactly what I'm going to tell you. And that's why it's so funny. So Shisui, for those of you who don't know, is a character in Naruto. And he is a side character who gets very, very little screen time. The whole point of it is that he is an older role model for Itachi, who I've mentioned a few times, and they mentioned in the anime and the manga that he was very close to Itachi, and it is said that Itachi killed him for power, but then later on, the language of it changes a little bit, and Itachi himself actually says that Shisui has disappeared and erased his existence. So in my brain, I was like, well, then Shisui's not dead. And I got really excited because this is one of those like ding 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 fanfiction moments where I had to write a story. Because if Shisui's not dead, that changes all kinds of things. People have mentioned how powerful he is and what a great ninja he was, and everybody wanted to get their hands on his eyes because they had some crazy powers in them that were really awesome. So I was like, well, if they can't find his body, and he's an amazing ninja, and he was super important to my favorite character ever, this story's happening. I don't care what you say. So I started writing this story, and I called it Blind Man's Gambit. And the whole premise was that Shisui had faked his death. And he tried to tell Itachi through code that he had faked his death, and Itachi didn't quite get the message. And then Shisui spent the next several years trying to help Itachi in secret, not trying to bother him, and then he came back at the end, right at the war, where the manga was at the time I was writing it, and basically turned the whole tide of the war. So it was a really fun story. But at the very end of it, there was a secret love interest thing going on, and I was going to write the last chapter of it. And that was going to be how my story was going to end. And I talked to Kat, also known as Chaos, who I've mentioned before, and she was like, don't end your story this way. Don't do it. You should just write a sequel. And I wasn't planning on writing a sequel, but I really respected Kat's opinion, and she told me to write a sequel, so I did. I ended the story right there, and I went out and I wrote a sequel. The sequel quickly got out of hand. So, Shisui throughout my entire story, he's fun. He is obsessive and kind of full of himself, but also sort of has a complex where he really needs to please people. He follows Itachi around kind of like a puppy, even though he's older, and he and Itachi work very closely together to try to save the village. So they have this sort of partnership going on, and so basically throughout the whole thing, he's very, very devoted to his friend Itachi, and in the end, he actually sacrifices his life for him, but, you know, through whatever means, is fine. And survives to the next story. So we see here that he's very, very loyal. He values Itachi's life above his own, but he's also incredibly obsessive, and he hasn't done anything for himself his entire life, and this is where it gets very important. Because in the whole sequel, in the second story, he decides that now it is time for him to reap his reward, and his reward is this girl. And by I think chapter 3, they had fallen into bed together, and there was no stopping him. And I told my friend, Countess Malarca Stella, I told her, I was like, he's a fucker, man. He just does whatever he wants to. I was like, trying to pull them back from the precipice, like, guys, we have a plot that we need to progress, and they were like, absolutely not. They shut the door in my face, they flipped me off, they were like, no, fuck this, we have another plan, we're gonna do it. It was like nothing but, it was like 6 chapters of nothing but just naughty nonsense, and I'm over here like, I can't stop this, it's just happening, it's happening. And I was just beside myself with laughter, because there was nothing I could do. And it was just like, whatever. You know, shower sex and sex outside and leave us alone, we're doing this thing. And oh man, it was, I don't even write this kind of thing typically. I really don't. And this came out of nowhere, and it was just, it happened. I couldn't stop it. And so I just went with it. And then I got to the end of the story, and basically just, I wrote up this summary like, guys, I don't know what happened here. And I just flung it full of tags that was like, there's a lot of dirty shit happening in this story, and I threw it out to the world, and I was like, I take no responsibility for anything that happened here. My character shut the door in my face and just happened. So the reason I'm telling you this is because sometimes your characters don't follow the outline, and that was the question on Tumblr. What do you do when they don't follow the outline? Man, you just shut your eyes and look away, and you just start typing. There's nothing you can do. There's no pulling them back. There just isn't. And it can be really fun. So there's more to this story. The second part of this story is, I've mentioned before that I'm reading this fantastic smut fic by Countess Malarca. It's called Vicissitudes. Look it up. And I had commented on one of her chapters, and I had mentioned Shisui. I was like, oh, you brought Shisui into it. This is so very exciting. She's like, oh, don't mention his name to me. He's pissing me off. I can't deal with Shisui right now. And the reason was, I found out later, was because she had read my story and is like, huh, I like Shisui. He seems pretty cool. I'm going to put him in my story. And so she did. And lo and behold, he did the exact same thing to her, the exact same way. He entered her story, and he was like this flirtatious guy, and he was like, are you an angel, Sakura? And he was like, you're kind of cute. And then it was like, he got in this little bickering argument with Itachi, and then he was like, there was this thing that happened with Sakura, and later on she told me, she was like, you know, he wasn't supposed to have sex with Sakura. That wasn't supposed to happen. And I tried and tried and tried, and he was not gonna listen. He just didn't listen. And I was like, didn't you learn from watching me? Like, I could have told you that he was gonna do that. Shisui's a fucker. Like, you can't do anything about him. He just does what he wants to. And I was talking, and I even said it this way. I was like, he's totally like, yeah, I could kill you if I wanted to. But I'd rather just crunch you up against this wall and see what you taste like. Like, that's Shisui in a nutshell. And it's not anything that we did. He just happened that way. And no matter how much you try to steer him back on track, he went rogue. He's still doing it to her too, and I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but I know that it's gonna be amazing. I was having this conversation with Brad today because I told him that this had happened between my friend and me. It's the same character. It's the exact same way that the character was portrayed, and he did the exact same thing to both of us. This is like an enigma. It's something that is completely beyond our control, and it's hilarious and fascinating. It's almost like the characters have taken on like a mind of their own. Like he became a character of his own volition out of both of our brains the exact same way and did the exact same thing to both of us. Like, for me, I find this very amazing. There's just, she's sweet. Anyway, that was kind of what I wanted to rant about. So if you are watching this and you're a writer and you have this problem, just let it happen. You can't stop it anyway. So what I'm dealing with right now in the original that I'm writing, Heike and Adaric have sort of a teasing relationship going on right now. They're pissing each other off on purpose and trying to kind of conceal that fact from each other. But the most recent happening is this scene that I just wrote where Heike likes to go to the tavern and watch people to make sure that there's nothing amiss happening in her city. She's kind of trying to keep a watchful eye on it because no one that she knows goes to the tavern because Tarindale doesn't drink and Adaric is too important to be caught dead in the tavern. And Dashinsei is too busy to stop by the tavern, and Mian, of course, is too prissy to be caught dead in the tavern. So it's basically like Heike's haunt. So she goes in there every night and she sits in the corner and watches people. That's what she does. And this one night she gets there and Adaric is in her chair. He did it on purpose, of course, daring her to make him move. And so she gets her beer and goes over, and she can't be like, get out of my chair, because then she loses the game. So she's like, alright, now I can sit with my back to the people and totally negate the reason I'm here. Or I can slide in next to him and make him really uncomfortable. But she goes to slide in next to him and he doesn't move. And he's not going to. So she sits on him. And he doesn't even flinch. And so this is kind of how their interaction goes, and I don't know. It's kind of related, kind of not, I guess. But this sort of teasing relationship evolved itself, and I don't know. Nothing exciting, terribly exciting has happened yet, but it will. But that scene in the bar was actually really, really fun. But Shisui, man. I don't even know what to say. I hope that you are understanding my pain. Because I wrote this scene, I wrote this story, and I'm at a loss for words. It is by far the dirtiest thing on my whole menu as far as things that you could read, and I didn't mean for it to happen that way. I would totally write that character again. But yeah, so if you're a writer and this happens to you, don't be alarmed. Don't stop it. Do not try to contain your characters. This is something I try to tell writers, is that, you know, you can outline as much as you want, as much or as little as you want to. You can outline till the cows come home. But when you start writing, things just happen, and you just go with it. A lot of that was actually why I used to never actually write with an outline, because as things happen in my brain, I just follow paths. But it almost never, maybe never ends up the way that you thought it was going to be when it started, and a lot of times it's actually better. But the characters will tell you what they want. The characters will tell you who they are. You don't actually get to do that. You would think that because you're the author, you're kind of like God, right? Like, this is my story, this is my outline, this is how it's going to begin, and this is how it's going to end, and this is all the stuff that's going to happen in between. And these are my characters, and this is what their personality is like, and these are the things that they're going to do. Nope. Don't even bother. It's not going to happen that way. You're going to be like, well, this is my beginning, and this is my end, and here's my checkpoints. We're going to go this way around and map it out that way, and we're going to skip this checkpoint entirely. And you're going to be like, well, these are my characters, and this is their personality, except that, those two don't even want to end up together. He wants her, and, he doesn't really care what I think, and she's actually going to be a total bitch, even though I thought she was going to be really sweet, and there's a reason for it. I haven't quite come up with what it is yet, but I'll get there. And then suddenly you'll be like, I know why she's a bitch, and then it'll happen, and it'll be in there, and that'll be your character from then on. Is there anything more that I need to say on this topic? Fucking Shisui, man, I just can't. I don't believe it. That guy. I'm kind of pissed. I'm kind of pissed that he did that to me, but I want to know what Stella thinks, because I'm sure that Stella is pissed too, because her story ended up entirely different. If you have an entire sexual relationship that you didn't plan on happening end up in your story, and you're like, what is this nonsense? I encourage you all to read that, so you can see what I mean. Start with Blind Man's Gambit, move on to The Tigers of the Tabby, and just see what it is that he did, because it's like there was a little spark of obsession in the end of Blind Man's Gambit that just blew up. Anyway, that's all that I need to say on the topic. Maybe next time I'll tell you about another one of my crazy stories and how the hell did that evolve, because actually I think telling you how my stories came about and what I was planning when I started and where it ended up might actually be kind of helpful. But yeah, character studies. Shisui. He's fun. See you later.